Thought maybe it was a button. Oh.
If I could call the meeting to order, if we could have a roll call.
Yes, Chair Gonzalez. On the roll call for the measures BJNY, Independent Citizens Schools Facility Bond Oversight Committee meeting for March 9th, 2026. Member Davis.
Here.
Member Butler is absent. Member Jones III is absent. Member Clark.
Present.
Secretary Dawson.
Present.
Vice Chair Nelson.
Present.
And Chair Gonzalez. Quorum present.
We have a motion on the adoption of our minutes. It says D1 260485, 0485 from February 9th.
I vote to adopt with a correction. And that correction would be that the attachment is immediately available with the minutes for this CBOC ad hoc committee recommendations, so that you don't have to go to the meeting and listen to it. Instead, it's right there, so you can click on it and see what we recommended.
All right, we have a motion to accept the minutes with a correction that the attachment of our subgroup report be attached. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and second on that. You done?
Yes, so there are no public commenters for this item. And to clarify, the amendment that's being asked is for the attachment that was for the facilities master plan on the last committee meeting on February 9th be added to that item, correct? Okay. So with that, there's no public commenters, and move forward to vote, Chair.
Yes, please.
On the motion to adopt the February 9th, 2026 BJY committee meeting minutes as amended with the attachment to the facilities master plan with the recommendations from CBOC be added as an attachment to the minutes. On the motion, Member Davis.
Yes.
Member Butler is absent. Member Jones III is absent. Member Clark.
Yes.
Secretary Dawson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Nelson.
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
On item D2, 260633, the minutes from the March 6 convening, looking at the school site. If I could have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I second Andrea Dawson.
No public commenters for this item, Chair. Yes. On the motion to approve the March 6, 2026 BJY committee meeting special minutes, special committee meeting minutes. On the motion, Member Davis.
Yes.
Member Butler and Member Jones III are absent. Member Clark.
Yes.
Secretary Dawson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Nelson.
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
I wondered if there was any interest or comments regarding that site visit from those present before we leave this topic, otherwise we go on to unfinished business.
If I may, Chair,
Yeah?
there is an item on the agenda G.-3.
Does that help us cover that? Oh, I see it. Okay, all right. I'll take it up then. All right. We have nothing on the adoption of a general consent report, and then we go to item F1, 260305 on the facilities master plan. We have staff here to present. Thank you.
Good evening, committee and committee members. I'm Pranita Ranbasi. I'm the Executive Director for Facilities Planning. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you all updates on the draft Facilities Master Plan 2026. This is the same ongoing discussion that we have been having with our committees and the board regarding the development of our Facilities Master Plan. First off, I just want to thank you all for being very collaborative and actively reviewing and providing feedback on the draft that we shared in February. We have taken all of that feedback and we've been incorporating that feedback in the next version. For tonight, I was going to present highlights from what we have incorporated within the draft master plan based on the feedback we've received so far, and seek your final feedback, as well as recommendations from the committee to be able to move that updated draft master plan to Facilities Committee in the March meeting for a final vote. Once the Facilities Committee would vote on that draft master plan, it would then move to the board as a first read. So I'll begin with just some highlights on how we have incorporated the feedback. The version that I'm referencing is again the same from the February meeting that has been also posted on our website. I believe we posted it about 5 weeks back. We have left it open for public comments. There is a link on the website that allows the community as well to share their comments. We've received some feedback already on that draft, as well as we've been receiving feedback through emails and in-person feedback as well. So we intentionally did not circulate an updated version to be able to minimize having multiple versions on the website. And then that also avoids, so we have one draft and then one final version, just to avoid any confusion. Once we receive the final feedback, as I mentioned, our goal is to be able to take it back to Facilities Committee in the March meeting, which is on March 19th, for a final vote. So in terms of the feedback that staff has been incorporating, I'll start with improving accessibility. I know feedback that was shared by the committee was about the amount of information that is in the plan. Just also knowing that the plan is very comprehensive. It's a district-wide assessment of all of our facilities, along with looking at several data indicators such as enrollment, equity indicators. So it is a lot of information that has been synthesized in one report. So we have been attempting to condense some of the sections to be able to make it more easy to read and to condense just the report as it stands. We have also been working on developing a dashboard to summarize all of our findings. That dashboard, as of right now, is live on the website as well. It's a draft dashboard similar to the draft report, and it shows various data views. So you are able to filter and slice and dice the assessments to be able to best see our findings. Along with that, we've also updated our website to make it more interactive. So what that means is all of the sections from the plan have been taken out of the PDF. That's a more printable version, and then is set up on the website so you can, as a reader, navigate into specific sections that you just want to view versus having to review a lengthier document. So it gives more interactive and accessibility, just ease to navigate around a comprehensive report like that. Within the dashboard, there are several views that I just want to take a moment to kind of break down. One, we have a district-wide overview. We heard that it would be helpful to have a more map-based visual. So there is a view that allows district-wide for you to visualize what the assessments look like on a map. Those assessments are facilities condition, educational adequacy, age of our buildings, portables. So there's like several breakdown of our assessments. There's another tab which gives you a campus-wide overview as a snapshot of all of our campuses with all of the assessments in a tabular format. So you're able to see all of the assessments in a column, and it's a snapshot for a comparison at a campus level. There's also another tab which shows you more for facilities. Our systems are broken into core system and some of the other systems. So you have structural, plumbing, electrical. All of these are broken down by assessments. So you'll see a more granular view of what these assessments look like. And then there's also, similar to what you're seeing in the draft plan, a campus or a school profile that we're going to set up, which just mirrors what's in the report. So there's various ways to be able to view information that's in the report that's a little more accessible, that's more printable, and you are also able to get a snapshot versus having to view sections to get to some of the information. Along with that, and then as you're using these dashboards, these are meant to be tools, right? So along with the T-shaped investment that we've been talking about, where you have district-wide focused investments versus going deeper through a modernization or rebuild, the way the dashboard has been set up is to help make those decisions or to help inform that decision-making process. There's another feedback that we received around strengthening the equity framework. Within the February draft that we had shared with you all, we had included demographics, unduplicated pupil count, as well as special education services. Within the master plan and the report, we're pulling these out to be able to explicitly talk about what these indicators mean and how they inform the decision-making process. They're also set up in the dashboard to show you an equity index. Additionally, we also heard including as a resource maps that show district-wide poverty levels or median income. There's a City of Oakland geographic equity toolbox, as they call it. The city in their general plan also has an equity indicator. We've included maps that show those different data indicators as well, again, as a resource to be able to help with the decision-making process. And then additionally, there was a feedback that we received was to be able to provide some rationale and context as to the school's cohort structure, which is in the executive summary, which supports sustainable academic programming and facilities planning, as well as to get some context regarding continuous cycle of investments across multiple bond cycles that we've included in the executive summary. So just to be able to explain how staff came up with those recommendations and what's the rationale and thinking around that. With that, I am happy to answer any questions, but I just wanted to make sure that you are able to hear what we are working on, the efforts that the staff has been putting in to be able to incorporate all of the comprehensive feedback that we've received from you all. Again, the dashboard is live online. I'm happy to also meet with you all just to be able to walk and demo how it is set up and how best to use it as well. And I know Mr. Thomas is online. I'm not sure if he would like to add anything, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Colleagues, you have questions, concerns? Do you want to? Yes.
Thanks. I wanted to start with a little anecdote because, last meeting when Andrea put the equity index kind of on my radar, I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting idea. And then I was actually the moderator for a panel on school boards and like what are school board members even good for, which is something I've still kind of questioned, having been on one for 4 years myself. But one of the panelists, when he sent over his biography, he was from Sacramento, and he said one of his big achievements was including the equity score in the master plan. And so I asked him about that when we were on the panel, and he said, and I thought this was a great way of putting it, he was like, district master plans are not sexy documents, right? Like lots of details. You're in a boardroom talking about metrics and stuff. But what is sexy is as a result of that equity score that he put into there in Sacramento, it helped drive the decision making, and there's building schools in South Sacramento, which is a historically disenfranchised area of Sacramento, because they were considering equity. And so the impact has been really profound in terms of the implementation of the master plan. So I thought that was amazing. It came from Andrea last month, and then there he was. He's an up-and-coming politician in Sacramento. So anyway, so thanks for doing that. I was just looking at the dashboard. I will take you up on the opportunity to sit down. I'm waiting for my new job to start. I have a lot of time right now, so I will, while I have the time, I might, because I actually design dashboards, like that's some of what I do professionally. So I know Tableau really well, and like some of the things that could make it a little stronger. But specifically, I just wanted to name, on the district overview, I think it would be great to, you can, there's certain categories you can use to color code the map, but the equity is not one of them, and that would be great to add that. And then in the campus overview, it's great because you have the equity score is actually a number. But I would love to see the FCI and the education adequacy columns also with numbers, because it's just the color. You can see from the color code, is it red, is it green, is it yellow? But it would be great to have, and then to be able to sort the chart instead of it's just by name and you can't sort it, but you could easily add the option to sort by FCI, to sort by equity, so you could kind of go from best to worst. So those are my thoughts.
Great. Anyone else? Andy?
I'm trying to figure out how to navigate this thing. Well, I'll just tell you, I can't. I'm at the what is this? Campus overview page, and I can't figure out how to scroll down through the actual school names to get to the school I want. So, but yeah, so I'll have to, I like the fact we have an equity score. Some of it doesn't seem to be working, some of the teachers. I agree with putting the equity, I agree with putting some of these other color-coded variables on this district overview page. You could, as a drop-down. What is occupancy rate? That's the category that is default loaded.
Yeah.
When you go to district overview.
Yeah. Occupancy rate is based on the current enrollment, how the space is being used based on the design or the programmatic capacity of the school. So there are 3 different types of capacity layers. One is the way the school has been designed with a loading factor that the state recommends. Then you have a programmatic capacity based on the programs that you add at the school, special education services, ECE, TK programs. The capacity varies based on that. And then the third layer is, of course, how the schools are using it based on their master schedule, to be able to determine how, as a percent, the space that is being utilized, we're calculating an occupancy rate. That can change year over year because enrollment changes year over year.
Yeah, then you definitely need to add some kind of indicator of, because, so yeah, so this is well, automatically I look at this and I'm like, oh, this is how this will be used to decide what schools to close. And I don't know that that's the purpose of this facilities master plan. Closing schools ought to be considered amongst a whole bunch of other factors, but also it would, would be really important to have some measure of what kids are around those schools. I also don't see this layer you're talking about with the city. In here somewhere, I'm sure. But I think it's really important that, yeah, you have enough under this category here for some context. A lot of people aren't going to get past this first page. I think it's interesting that occupancy rate. I would like it if occupancy rate was not the default.
Yeah, and I'm happy to again walk you through the dashboard. That should not be the default.
I don't want to take time doing it right now. I really appreciate the work.
Yeah.
We got a lot of other stuff to talk about. I don't think we're going to make a lot of changes anyway. So maybe you and I can get together and you can walk me through it.
Sure.
But,
Thank you, Andy. Ms. Clark?
I think we all might need to walk through it. I mean, if it's, and I'm just
Oh, sorry, let me get it up for you.
your shoulder, is there if this is for the public, perhaps there should be some definitions, explanations, so that it could be easy for anyone to read it and understand it, so that they can have questions.
Yes, there is a tab that shows all of the definitions, the criteria, the legend for all of the assessments. It's called the introduction tab. It's the first tab. And then to your point, we were also considering maybe a 45-second video just to show how to use the dashboard. That might be super helpful as well.
I'm going to add one point to your point. You could put more information on the hover over thing and different information, so you could get a little context for these schools, because the less that a person has to jump around this thing to figure it out or look at videos or all of that, just give us something I can pop open, I can hover it over and find out what we're talking about. That would be really, beans. That'd be really helpful.
Yeah, it's kind of for dashboard design, you don't want to have people having to go back and forth from one tab to another to get the definitions. You can just put the information on as like a legend on one side. It can change as you change what filter you're using. The legend should be able to change. And then when you do the hover, you ought to be able to like click there and jump to the next tab and see the information for that school, rather than having to change tabs, select the school again. Like, you ought to be able to just click on it. Sure. I can help with that.
Ms. Clark, do you have additional comments? Andrea?
Just quickly for me, I appreciate the work, and I really do hope you take Sam up on his offer, because I don't think it's necessarily user-friendly right now, and it needs to be. So, and I agree that there should be more. When I punch Hillcrest and it got a high, it gets a high rating, I want to know what's in that, because my thing is all about, number one is thermal comfort for the whole district, and I'll be on my bandwagon until we pass the next bond. But is Hillcrest entirely taken care of? I want to know. So, because there's a lot of high and very good on this, but is the whole school taken care of? Because if we have auditoriums that aren't, or lunchrooms that aren't, well then it's a mixed bag. So it's off balance in my opinion. This is why I really wanted the lengthy matrix that scores everything, so you could just look down a column on mechanical, for each school, but you see the column, and you could sort the worst to the best, or the best to the worst. And high school, middle schools, yeah, anyway. Thank you.
I guess to round out the conversation, I agree with all the previous comments. And I think this idea of can we have something where you can look at the ratings down to 2 decimals, kind of idea was something that had been shared. And the reason for that, we're a little worried that we have a lot of older buildings, and it's really hard. We'll be splitting hairs, honestly, on some of these facilities, because a lot of things can fall indeficient, but by what degree? And I think sometimes numbers alone don't give you everything. You need context, but sometimes numbers do help. And in this instance, I would say I'd really encourage that. And I do hope, I'm very glad that one of our committee members is savvy about dashboards. I am not. I know all the things that I would like to see in it. I have no idea how you go about it. So yes, I think if any of us have questions or issues, I am volunteering that we should all send them over to Sam. and that he should be our point person and work with the staff to kind of sort out, because I think he has an understanding about what we're saying, and I think that would be helpful to have at least one person that can kind of be our helpful point person, if maybe everybody sort of agrees on that. And you accept. Thank you.
Just while I'm unemployed for the next month, but then I'll be busy. But yeah, sounds good.
Yes. Sata Olukbala. And how much time would you like to allot for public comment? 2 minutes.
These are some of the areas that should be in any plan related to the facilities department. The plan for preventive care, the plan that has anything to do with portable buildings, emergency efficiency, meeting of state minimum facility standards. How are we going to do that? Procedures to close schools temporarily due to poor facility conditions. Procedures for reopening schools that have been closed. Notice of exemption. Y'all were talking about public understanding. I've been trying to find out what a notice of exemption is. Still don't understand it related to McClymonds. Ensuring adequate accommodations for persons with disabilities. Process and procedures when schools are required to create the funding for the outside from an outside source. Garfield, money was obtained from an outside source. It was being recommended that McClymonds get money for remodelization from an outside source. How does that work? Because it's happening. Instead of using measure J, B, and Y, schools are directed to go to outside sourcing for funding. Where's the clock? I think my time's up, boo. It's not up? Okay. So let me see what other one I saw that I wrote down. Of course, I know it's dealing with issues of gas leaks, air quality, outdated plumbing, mold, and some of the common things. Okay, that's it. I had some other stuff. I've been writing down stuff.
There are no further public commenters for this item. Chair.
Yes, good evening. Michael is the accountant for the facilities program. So I have the one-pager reconciliations for the measure-wide projects. This information was posted, and you have copies. So I'm just going to go through the various projects, highlight them. Then, if you have any questions, I can take your questions at the end. So the first one I have here is CCPA. Overall review is that the project budget. That's okay. Thank you. The total project budget is 68 million. So if you look down, I'm not going to go through all the various details there, but just the highlights of this 68 million project budget. So for 6.6 billion is under contract. 4.6 million is already paid, and the total contract balance is 1.912. So they still have 61.3 million that is not yet contracted. Just to highlight overall basic summary. So if you go through the body of the spreadsheet, you can see the various categories, the actual vendors that we are in contract with, various contract amounts, what has been paid under those contracts, and the current contract balance balances. So the next one is McClymonds. So the total project budget is 92.7 million. Of this amount, 15.76 have been contracted, and 17 million is left not yet contracted. So again, we go through the various vendors, how much has been contracted, how much has been paid, and so far we have 9.2 million that is not yet under contract. Then the next is Roosevelt. So the total project budget for Roosevelt is 91.5 million. We have committed 90 million, 0.05, and 1.49 is remaining, not under contract. Again, you see the various vendors under various categories, amount that has been paid, and the current contract balance, 60.7 million. Okay. Then Garfield. This is funded all through Measure Y. 70.7 million total project budget. 9.7 million has been committed, and you have 60.9 million not yet committed. So far we have paid 3.07 million. And again, we have the various vendors. If you have any specific questions on those vendors, we'll take these questions. After Garfield, we have Fremont. We call that Fremont 2, the high school modernization. So the total project budget is 18.3 million. We've committed 15.3, and the amount remaining is 2.9 million. So the total amount paid is 8.8 million. Again, you have the various categories. You have the vendors, various contract amounts, amount paid, and contract balances per each vendor. Yes, the final one is MLA at Maxwell Park. This is multi-funded through Measure Y and Fund 25. So the total project budget on this is 36.1 million. So far, we committed 5.8 million, and we have remaining 30.3 million. Again, we have all the details in there in terms of categories and vendors and amounts committed and amounts paid. Just a highlight summary. I'd be glad to take any questions you have.
Under other planning costs, I mean, that's for each page, but I'm wondering what all this is for. It looks like most of them are for printing or newspapers, or I don't want to even guess. What is the
So,
other
like
planning
for example, I'm looking at MLA now. If you look at other planning costs, we have Alameda County Publishing, Alameda Publishing Corporation, the Daily Journal, where all the contracts are published in compliance with the state requirements. We have East Bay Blueprint, and we have a Small Business Exchange. So that's a requirement that all contracts have to be publicly, all bids, all contracts prior to bidding are publicly published in all these newspapers. So that's to bring awareness to everyone. There's no hide and seek thing about contracts. So.
And is AGS a publishing company, or what is that? This is for Roosevelt,
Roosevelt,
yeah, AGS.
yes, it is a publishing company. Hold on, let me look at Roosevelt.
Under Alameda Publishing Corp., and then it says AGS. No,
Yeah.
under,
AGS. Under Roosevelt, under other publishing costs, there's a vendor AGS. Okay. I think they do testing, but I can verify and report back to you.
Yeah, they're in
Yeah.
they're in a different category.
yeah, I just like to know. It looks like most of them are on each, but then some of them are not.
Various projects have various specific requirements, so it depends. If the testing it involves testing, then that should be listed as a line item. But if testing is not part of the overall GC scope, then it won't require any additional, any specific listing. But I can verify that further for you. Okay.
So AGS produces some environmental reports. Sometimes those happen in the planning stage, which is why in some sections, some projects, it's in the planning costs section. In other projects, the environmental reports happen throughout or other parts of the process, like when we're testing throughout the project. So it appears in the testing category and others. So it has to do with when the work is completed.
So these are all, some kind of publishing of information, each of these?
No. Bay Area News Group, Daily Journal, Small Business Exchange, Alameda Publishing Corp. Those are all, did I say Small Business Exchange? Yes. Those are all publications that we use to share with the contracting community, RFPs and RFQs, so that everyone has an opportunity to know what contracting opportunities there are with the district, and then they can submit proposals to us.
That's good.
And that happens in the planning stage, which is why it's listed as other planning costs in there. And then there are other activities in the planning stage, like environmental reports, things like of that nature. So there are a few other items in some projects that appear in that section.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
But as a follow-on, could you actually verify that for us on Roosevelt? Because it is $621,000.
Yes, I will verify that.
And you look at the other AGS, which they're an engineering corporation that does testing. I know who they are. And they're in the testing section elsewhere. So, yeah, maybe they did have to do $621,000 worth of testing and reporting, but it seems like it's a question,
To get back to you with details.
Yeah.
The Roosevelt project spans 3 years of construction. As you saw, there's lots of activity there.
Right.
So some of it may have started in the planning stage and will continue. But we'll get back to the scope.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, should it be in that category, really? So my questions mainly are around the architectural fees. I did make a comment at our last meeting about the Garfield being the $8+ million, 96 million, and just the suggestion that it might not have been that much if we made a determination sooner to do it new versus modernization. So, and I looked at all the architectural fees here, and the other question that I have, and I'd like to know what the breakdown is on the McClymonds. main construction, well, you have, H-Kit and Alton are the team. So you have Perkins East up as the architect engineer record, but basically H-Kit, are they the architect of record? So I would like to see the split of this contract, like this, it's almost $12 million, you know, because I understand the process, but it doesn't really read how I feel it should in a report like this. So,
Andrea, I had a hard time hearing what you were saying, so on the McClymonds, what was your question? It was around Alton?
well, the thing is, they have an architect engineer
Yes.
at the top. First, you know, right underneath the OUSD salaries. Okay. Perkins East Architect, they're the planning architect, probably in the planning. But then you go down into the middle of it, and the joint venture is Alton and H-Kit. And they are almost 12 million. And that's not all going to H-Kit or all going to Alton. It's a split, and Alton is the contractor. They are not the architect. So they have a contract together. But I'd like to know what the split is, because ultimately the architect is responsible to the state, not Alton.
I see.
Okay, just to clarify, you need a breakdown for the main construction between Alton and H-Kit. Breakdown of the contracts between each of them. You need a
Yeah, I think you could just put it underneath it.
Underneath,
really,
okay.
You know,
sure.
yeah.
Just
It's a joint venture.
separate them, separate the two.
It's not a joint venture.
Well, whatever it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could explain.
sure.
So on this project, Perkins Eastman provided bridging architecture services, which is
Okay.
from the planning stage into the production of construction documents. So their contract is separate, but our actual contract is with Alton, and H-Kit is a sub to Alton, because this is a progressive design build delivery method. So we can outline, and you know, as we're getting into the construction work, there's going to be many, many subs on this project, and so Alton is the lead contract with us. So we don't have a direct contract with H-Kit on this project. They are. Sure. My apologies. So we can show the subs under the Alton contract, but Alton is the primary contract holder for this project.
But who is
H-Kit is the architect of record.
okay. Yeah, and so, I mean, there's always, it's interesting, this kind of contract, progressive, because, I mean, there's upsides and downsides.
Absolutely.
So it would be interesting to know, yeah, the subs. I don't see it as a problem. I'm not
me neither.
proposing that it's a problem. I'm just asking on behalf of our committee. The other thing is, in looking at the consultants that are Cumming Management Group, Cordoba, and Brailsford and Dunleavy. So can you explain, just start on the first one, CCPA, what Dunleavy's, B&D's, what are they
Okay.
providing? What is Cordoba providing, and what is Cummings providing?
Prior to this time, we had a separate line item on the spending plan called program management. So what we're doing now is that at the end of each quarter, we do a spreadsheet and recharge those program management expenses against those various projects. So these various CM companies, this is a cumulative sum of the services they have provided to date for this particular project. So staff from Cordoba, this is how much so far. Staff from B&D and staff from Cummings. So these are assistance provided by these individuals from these companies towards this particular project.
Okay, so I understand that. So now I'm going to take Cumming as an example.
Okay.
So how long is this project? And is this Cummings full contract for managing for the CCPA? Is 137,000 for the duration of the project, or are you?
To date,
Well, it says contract amount,
well,
contracted amount. So are you, in other words, are you contracting in phases? Or
No.
are you-
no. So this is just the way to present it. Okay, when you come back this time, next time, these numbers is going to change. So far to date, for this project, staff from Cummings have provided services for this project to the tune of $137,000.
Well, that's, I don't really think, so are you telling me then that, I'm going to go back up to the architect and engineer. Are you telling me that Shaw Kowalski is, that his contracted amount?
No, this only applies to this section, consultant expenses.
Well, I'm just going to say it shouldn't be that way.
Okay,
If the contract is 250,000, that should be the contracted amount. And then you have the amount paid. It should be the total contract for the duration, unless you're doing it as phases, you know, pre-construction and construction. Oftentimes, the project management consultant, that's also the construction management consultant, are one and the same, and they first do the constructability review and the pre stuff, so it's pre-construction, and sometimes districts give them as 2 contracts and some 1. And so that's what I'm questioning here, because, you know, I go back through all of them, and it's clear to me, I'm just gonna, let me finish, and then you can, but McClymonds, you know, Cummings is $41,000, or 40, you know, 42,000 in round numbers. Well, that's not their contract for managing the project.
no, it's not their contract for managing the project. So maybe we have to review the way we present this information, because we have staff from Cummings assigned to projects. So as the project progresses, quarterly, intermittently, we recharge those expenses paid to those companies, to those particular projects that they were part of. This number will continue to change to the life of the project. So, I mean, we can do something different. We can give you a cumulative to date number, because this number is going to change next time.
I think I understand what you're
So,
saying, but
no,
what,
I'm just trying to think through this in the best way to present it, so that this number is, for example, Cummings, $137,000. There's no contract with Cummings for $137,000.
understand. So no, let me put it another way. If your contract is $1 million with Cummings, and they're managing 4 projects, then it should say somewhere that their overall contract is $1 million, and you agreed to a fee of $250,000 for McClymonds for the duration. Now, whether that changes, that would mean they would get an ad service because things change. But somehow, this doesn't really tell us what's being charged off to this project. And I'll just follow it on by saying you have an inspection, Antonio Services. There's one in here.
Yes,
which,
Anthony's IOR.
yeah, okay, there's one here that's 1.3 million. Well, that looks to me like a contract for at least one project. Maybe they're augmenting another project for that amount of money, because that's a big number. I'm looking at, where did I see this? Okay, well, I'll just, it's Roosevelt.
If I could explain, that is one contract for one project for Antonio. It's a multi-year project, and because of the size and the complexity, there are 2 inspectors required. So that is the cost for that one project. I'm hearing that you want to be able to dig in more deeply around the what's in these contracted amounts, and whether I would love to hear what.
Well,
would
I mean,
be
Roosevelt,
helpful.
that makes sense to me, what you just said about the inspector, and I would have guessed that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's 705,000 for McClymonds, okay? That, I would expect that.
Yeah.
But the architects really, their fees aren't really, and the project and program management really isn't showing it all here. Even if there's footnotes, I think sometime back we actually asked for this. Sarah Price and myself asked for this. So we really understand what contract that's coming from and what the whole contract is. And you're, you know, they're 10% on this project, and 30% on this one,
Yeah.
60% on the last one, right?
I hear
Yeah.
that request. You sort of want to see a zoomed out number of what our total contract is, excuse me, with each of these providers, in addition to the project-specific numbers for the major projects.
Right, and it, like I said, it could be footnotes. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, our contracts, as you know, we provide these reports for the major projects. The construction management groups and the project management work spans all of the work of the facilities department. So it won't totally match up if we're talking about the whole contract and then just showing you the detail here. But we'll figure out how to make it make sense.
Right, we understand that. I mean, these came about because we asked for them, because there was no, you know, you can read these other reports and they're like a moving target, let's just say. And these, we could get a sense of what things actually cost and have a better understanding as a group where we're spending our money and what it's really costing. And I think it's good for the public to see this too. So they really understand what each one of these projects take.
Ms.
So,
Clark?
yeah.
So that's why I really would like to know regarding the consultants for each of these projects, what is it that what is their consult for? You know, is it for design? Is it for this, that, the other? I would like to know this because some of these amounts, you know, 6 digits, I'm curious to know what the money is for exactly. And you're saying that for the consultants, will the number change?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I would like to know what is it that they're bringing to the table? Because these amounts, so how many times will the number change throughout the project?
Okay. The only numbers that will change are these numbers for the consultants, because as they work, as the staff work, the company sends us and invoices, as we pay the invoices, we turn around and determine those expenditures within the various company invoices that pertain to a particular project. So we turn around and do a journal and recharge the projects. So that's what these numbers are supposed to tell us. Okay, so far, staff from Bradford and Dunleavy has provided services to the tune of $61,000 to CCPA as of today's date. That's what I'm saying, that next time that number is going to change. Okay, so we're going to continue to add on to this because the project is still ongoing.
No, I get that. I'm
So
just
that's
asking.
that's the only thing that will change.
I get it.
Okay.
I'm just asking, what did they bring to the table the first time? Okay, now the number is about to change because now this is happening.
Okay.
We needed their consultation for this.
Okay. The project is ongoing.
I get that part.
Okay, as they continue to work,
I just want to
we
know.
continue to pay them, and the numbers continue to change.
I have-
Pay them for what?
I have
That's
two.
all I want to know.
So, Cumming Group and Cordoba Group provide construction management services. So the service that they're providing is project management and project engineering, which are the staff, you met Chastity and Chastity and Alina at McClymonds, they're part of the coming group, and so their time on the McClymonds project is charged in this
Got
category.
it. So
And
for each
every
one,
project,
that's what I want
exactly.
to know.
You want to see
What is
just
it they're
what are the
bringing?
services?
Yes.
It's all construction management and project engineering
Well,
for everyone.
I'm just going to make a suggestion, and maybe it's not next month, but sometime this year. Like, we're hoping to get 2 more members. I think it would be good for us to have a presentation, because, it's basically you tell us what the process is and who all these consultants are, and then, because we did that a few years ago, and because other people were confused about it, or didn't, they just needed to be educated on this, because there's a lot of people in here, and it does cause questions, and like for me, I'll just say frankly, it's interesting that you have Cummings and Cordoba on the same project. If they're doing the same, if they're both doing project management or construction management, let's just say on McClymonds, because they come from 2 different companies. Did they propose as a joint venture, which is one of those things that you would answer to us, So the project engineer is from Cordoba, and the senior person is from Cummings.
Right.
Okay,
And
so
it also spans all the phases of the project. So
Correct.
in the design phase, we might have a project engineer from this company, and then when we move into construction, we might shift the staffing. So we can provide a presentation about how we staff the projects with respect to the consulting budget.
Yeah.
And I recognize that would be helpful for everyone to understand.
Good suggestion, Sam, and then Andy.
You wanna
Oh,
go
you,
first?
go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, you.
I think maybe I can ask this a different way, because I know a lot less about construction budgets than Andrea. So I think my concern when I look at this is, I know that like CCPA and MAC, they are about, as soon as you get DSA approval, right, you're gonna start construction. Like, we're finished with the design phase, we're just about to hit construction. And so I think my anxiety in any project is, are we on budget, are we off budget, like how are we tracking? And so the way, I mean, this is super good information, because it's down to individual vendors and like how much are we spending on each one. But I don't have a sense looking at this, it looks like, oh, we have $77 million left at max, so let's build a whole new building, or but obviously you've budgeted that 77 million, but it's not clear to me looking at this. Or maybe we're way over budget on the design phase, and there's no way we're gonna do the construction with the 77 million. And so if there's a way to break down some of what the remaining budget is expected to go to as well. I mean, you've got a lot of detail here, so I don't know where you'd fit it. Maybe it's a whole other page, or maybe it's just saying there's this additional budgeted amount in each of these areas that we're expecting is gonna be how it's gonna break down. Like, there's gonna be, we're expecting another $1 million to go to the consultants, or actually, no, we think we're done with the consultants, and it's all gonna be main construction, 70 million going there, or however the 77 million is gonna be broken down between the different.
So,
Does that make
for McClymonds, look at the main construction. If you look at the main construction, you can see Alton Edge Gate. So the contract amount is what, 11.9 million, and so far we spent 4.5, and it's just telling you the balance. There's 7.3 million left in the contract. So I don't.
Right, but I mean at the top of the page where it says remaining budget, because the full allocation, right, is 92.7.
Okay.
And remaining budget is 77 million. So I'm like, wow, we could go to town. We have so much money left over. But that's not true, right? I mean, that 77 million in quote unquote remaining budget, it's not just free money. It's all been allocated.
It's uncommitted.
It's uncommitted, but it is budgeted.
Yes.
So I think that's, if it could break down how it's budgeted,
Okay.
that would be super helpful. So for us to get a sense of like, or maybe it's just breaking down the budget by area. So it's like, are we over budget? Are we under budget? How are we on track? And it's hard for me to figure out how we would display that, but.
Okay, we got it.
And
Okay.
I could, I'll
Andy-
just say, I
Andy
could give some
first.
examples.
Andrea, Andy first, and then you.
Well, if you guys want to finish this out, I'm a little different.
I just want to say, I could give some examples. I gave them some years back, because you do have, you basically, the project forecasted budget before you even start. And then as you go along, I'll just use McClymonds as an example. When you run into unforeseen conditions, that the architect has some more legitimate design work to do, you're going to have an ad service, and they show up in the board documents all the time. So their original contract was 1 million, but now it's 2. And that should somehow be reflected, so we really get a sense of where we're going on the projects.
All right, is the feedback back to staff clear? I mean, okay. Yes, sir. Andy?
This may or may not be relevant here, but we used to also get these major project sheets every once in a while.
Yes,
We're gonna still get those?
yes.
When are we gonna see those?
Actually, we were supposed to get one today, but we were told to present only the one page because of the time factor.
All right.
Yeah. So next time we'll come, yeah, we'll get one.
I mean, maybe this should wait for next month, but I guess I've been out of the loop for a year, and so I was just like, wait, Fremont, I thought we finished Fremont. Can you just speak a little bit to what happened? Like, why are we still at Fremont?
Okay.
There's this final phase of construction at Fremont includes the replacement and installation of modular buildings. So this is the last phase. And we had an amazing crane day that's my favorite day of all construction, where the cranes actually move the buildings into place. So we're doing great with that project. And so that'll be the final phase. So yeah, we did all the other work on the Fremont campus, and then this is the last little piece.
Wait, there's a new building there?
Modulars.
Oh, I gotta get back over there. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
I think you all did a site visit previously, but we could schedule another.
I would be remiss if I didn't say this to the committee, though. You know, this is one of those things where it gets, this master plan with an equity index is so important, because when you add up everything that we've spent at Fremont, and you say that, oh, they really needed this, and I'm not saying the kids don't deserve it. I'm never saying that, okay? But we're spending $18 million to finish, quote, this last piece. But right now, those kids are actually doing those programs in other parts of the campus. So they've figured out how to use the campus as it is now. So the question for me always is, was it so important to do this now in this bond rather than address maybe a more critical need somewhere else?
And this is all funded from B&J. Yeah.
Yeah, that's bond money, though.
Right, I know.
It doesn't matter to me whether it's BJY, was there something more critical that we should have addressed? And I personally think so. So it's always, you know, it's like, would it affect his enrollment at Fremont? I don't think so. So, anyway.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, just a quick follow. So where in our process would we have been alerted to that expenditure? And what information would we have been given that would say this, you know, this is why it's justified? I mean, did we get that?
Because we have
Did we get it before this expenditure?
not before it was approved to go ahead.
Yeah.
Because it might have been, right, you know, while they're putting these modules in place, it still could be cramped where they are. Yes, they may
there may be a good
do,
reason for it.
but
So,
it's
I think-
still
I
cramped.
will say first that these decisions were before my time, but I do have a bit of an explanation that I hope will help explain how we got here, which is that these were savings from the previous approved projects for Fremont that were decided to, because the project list, through board approval, were decided to stay in the Fremont project and expand the scope. So that's what I understand. And it did go through board approval for that, and we can get back to you about when there was CBOC.
It's not really about, it's more about process overall.
Absolutely.
And we didn't touch the cafeteria there. So the thing is, you can say that the whole school's done, but it's not. And so it's really, it's all about equity and use, the greatest needs across the district for me. And waiting until the next bond maybe to do the $18 million project. I'm not saying they should never have it, but yeah.
Colleagues, have we beat this one down to a pulp, I think? Thank you.
Okay.
I don't see any questions. Do we have any comments here?
Sada Olapala.
All right, ma'am, give you 2 minutes.
Related to the Garfield, there should be some explanation of a conference expense, Big Apple Cafe, $427, I'm assuming. There should be some indication of the first 5 Alameda County funding of $19 million for the project. As it relates to McClymonds, other projects, you will see hazardous waste as a investment. At McClymonds, you see no hazardous waste investment, where it has been strongly identified that there's excessive contamination at the school, but the modernization process has no hazardous waste allocated for funding or action. You do see that the school spent the department spent over $72,000 to move in the summer. The projects that started 2 weeks ago. You also have building and grounds. I don't know what that is. $180,000 over that amount. $118,000. Hertz Environmental, $32,200. I don't know what that's about because they're not doing nothing for environment. There are projects that have we do have vapor intrusion risks. We do have lead. We do have TCE, groundwater contamination. And that's the biggest thing that's going on over there. That they're not dealing with that contaminated waste issue. That's my time, but there are other issues. I'll bring them up later.
Could I ask staff to speak to contamination over at McClymonds?
Thank you.
To clarify.
Sure. At McClymonds, we haven't yet to complete the contracts for the remediation of the hazardous materials that are part of the project site. We have conducted a great deal of testing, and we've developed a soil management plan that as we are beginning construction, we will use that soil management plan to ensure that the safety of students, community members, and workers on site are informed by the kinds of hazards on site and the locations of those hazards. And we will be remediating the hazards in compliance with that report that was developed by TerraPhase Environmental, which is an expense that you do see already here on the project budget reconciliation. The expenses related to the remediation have yet to be contracted. That will come forward, and that will appear in future budget reports, but it is part of the project budget. Does that answer the question for you?
Does anybody have any question related to that? No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this evening, we wanted to be able to give you a high-level update on the district's asset management and real property services strategies, and then progress we've been making so far in terms of the phases that we constantly keep referring to around asset management. I wanted to be able to just give you background, context, how we got here, and there's a lot of information in the presentation that references a lot of resources that staff has presented over the past 3 to 4 years. But I wanted to make sure that you all have access in the file IDs for all of the presentations and resources in case you would like to reference some of those. Okay. So the goal or the outcome for today's presentation is to be able to ensure that the committee has a shared understanding of the strategies and the progress or the research that staff has presented to Facilities Committee, to the board around asset management strategies, and then to also be able to present to you all updates and around the progress specifically for Phase 1 and Phase 2 properties, and to talk about what is in Phase 1 and what is in Phase 2. In terms of the presentation parts, I will be giving a little bit of background and context on how we got here, what are the guiding principles that the board has helped inform, the community has helped develop, as well as then talk about the progress updates for the 2 phases. So I just wanted to bring back this as a refresher. The district has a board policy 7350 around physical asset management. What it really focuses on is to be able to manage and maintain all of the district assets as a system to provide safe, secure, healthy, and technologically ready learning environments. I won't read through the whole the guiding principle, but I also wanted to point out that there are key sections in the policy that drive the asset management process and strategies. So it talks about, the policy talks about how to optimize use of district properties, the best use of properties to house core administrative services, and also to use district properties to generate unrestricted revenues to support services and programs for our students. So without having to touch every single item, I wanted to give you all a comprehensive list of all of the staff efforts in terms of research and the Facilities Committee and board engagements that we've had so far. The conversations, of course, go way beyond or before the 2023 date that I have, but we just wanted to bring back the visioning that we had with the board around general asset management strategies that led to where we are right now. I wanted to particularly highlight, we started with a deeper dive around a comprehensive review of our assets across the district in 2024. That's when we determined the Phase 1 properties, Phase 2 properties. We had several study sessions with the board to actively engage around prioritization. And then I just also wanted to lay out in December, or rather in September 2025, the board passed a resolution around the feasibility study, which I'll be talking about a little bit. But just for your reference, here is a timeline of how we got here. So in terms of the guiding principles, I just wanted to highlight how the board helped develop these guiding principles informed by conversations at study sessions, but also community engagement and feedback. And just to name these principles, to meet enrollment and programmatic needs, inclusive and transparent planning, data-driven decisions based on real existing conditions, and identifying public good through community engagement. I also just wanted to highlight, I know it says data-driven decisions through our master planning process. That's a piece that we have been changing how we frame this and talk about data informed, and not that data is the only piece that's driving the decision, but there is an engagement and a conversation with our community and board that does drive that decision making. So just to highlight that piece. A snapshot of the space needs that we heard so far based on these conversations. There's 2 separate needs that are identified on this slide. One is for educational purpose, and then the other one is around housing and community needs. To just briefly touch around the educational purpose, there's some programmatic needs that were identified based on these engagements. Some of those are associated directly with early childhood education. We did have some central office with direct service and students to students and families, which included the pre-K to 12 and high school density areas, family resource hubs, family resource centers, special education programming needs, as well as ensuring that we're also in alignment with the legally mandated charter schools housing. In terms of non-educational or other expansive needs around assets, we also identified workforce housing, accommodating unhoused families and students, affordable housing, as well as some nonprofit organization needs, which were tied to infant toddler programming, childcare and parenting, community-based organizations to support some special populations. So here's a comprehensive review of when we started this in 23-24. We looked at all of these different properties. The map shows you vacant, district use properties, lease properties, as well as sites at that. It's a snapshot from 24-25, but sites that were identified for pre-K, TK potential expansions. What you see in blue are specifically the sites that are vacant. Okay, diving straight into the study that we conducted as part of our asset management. So the goal of the study was to be able to develop a comprehensive evaluation of the district's assets, specifically the vacant properties, their values or valuation, what's the best fit for those sites in terms of future potential developments, the feasibility around those, and then the potential benefits from considering future options for development. And then also develop a structured approach to prioritize sites. So you're not looking at one site at a time, but you're having a comprehensive review of the district-wide needs. With this approach, we broke the study down into two parts, this phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1, based on board's feedback and prioritization, included 3 sites, 1025 2nd Ave, Lakeview, and the former Ralph J. Bunche Academy. The goal within the phase 1 assessments was to be able to complete an initial feasibility study of valuation of the properties based on current market conditions, neighborhood assessment, looking at what the potential financial or fiscal strategies could be to consider future developments. That study was completed in June 2025, and that's the phase 1. I have included that in my previous slides as a link if you all want to review that report and presentation. For phase 2, there were additional sites that the board recommended we consider outside of the map that I just showed you 2 slides back. The 2 sites were the old Chabot Observatory as well as the Tilden campus, the campus which was formerly, which housed the Urban Montessori School. The goal to be able to do this in 2 phases was to be able to take learnings from the first phase, again, go back into our comprehensive list district-wide, and then be able to implement some of the findings and research from phase 1. So you're not necessarily redoing the entire assessment all over again. So in terms of the feasibility study, the initial phase 1 report that we presented in June 2025 was more high-level valuation and neighborhood analysis. The feasibility study further then goes into a deeper assessment to be able to conduct technical due diligence, which includes environmental, structural reviews, geotechnical, utility capacity, and so on, traffic study. It also includes looking at concepts or programming and design options, which would consider also market and employee demand. So what is the demand within the district for potential workforce housing? What would be staff's recommendation in terms of affordable housing? So what is really the demand versus what's the need? And then looking at existing buildings to be able to reuse those buildings, parking and phasing strategies as well. And then there's, of course, a big piece around the financial feasibility, right? Is what are opportunities that are already available that the district can leverage, whether that's at the state level, at the city level, which allows expanding existing partnerships with the city and the state to be able to implement potential affordable housing opportunities or workforce housing opportunities. So to be able to conduct that financial analysis at a deeper level. The key benefits, as noted here, are to be able to define the project objectives and the goals on what are being considered as part of that development, to be able to do our due diligence in terms of some of the technical assessments before you can actually develop what would be an RFP potentially, to be able to reduce the risk and uncertainty. So by following the feasibility study, you would have a better understanding of what are some of the things that district would need to be aware of in terms of addressing through that RFP, or what would increase the opportunities at those sites. And then, of course, it informs the valuation and selection criteria to ensure that the project partners can be executing that to meet the outcome that the district would identify for those sites. So that's about the feasibility study. This was through a resolution that the board passed in December 2025. We have launched that feasibility study for phase 1 properties. Again, phase 1 included 3 properties: 1025 2nd Avenue, Lakeview, and former Ralph J. Bunche. For phase 2, the resolution authorized staff to come up with recommendations on what the phase 2 properties could look like from that map that you saw multiple sites. We did identify 3 sites: Golden Gate CDC, Piedmont, and Old Chabot Observatory, to be able to consider for initial phase 2 evaluation. This was based on a more a structured screening where we looked at size, parcel size, what's the potential for development, what are some of the developments that the city is considering around those properties, which are the high resource centers or the high resource zones, as the city calls it, where there are some more economic developments that are coming up that the city is focusing on. So being more closely aligned with what the city is considering, as well as what our best needs are. As well as the considerations from the city also tie directly back to some of the potential funding opportunities that the state may be exploring as well. We have in the past talked to the Department of Finance at the state level, as well as the city, to be able to explore what potential workforce housing opportunities the state is considering to offer to public school districts. So just to be able to bring all of that information together to make more informed decision. And then the completion for the study, we're estimating by the end of the school year, by June 2026. With that, I am happy to answer any questions you may have. The goal was to be able to give you just high-level progress updates on where we are with phase 1 and phase 2, and then just the context on what led to where we are right now with some of the asset management strategies.
I did have one question on the Old Chabot about ownership issues. What is the interest for the district to take on something that already looks complex, given that it has already sufficient complexity in front of it? I'm just sort of curious what the thinking is behind that.
Yes, I think the intent was to be able to review. So the way across the city there are slivers of parcels that are split in ownership, that are shared with the city, or the city shares with us and with other local agencies, whether that's Park Authority or directly with the city of Oakland. Old Chabot is one of those sites where there's a little bit of a joint ownership that's adjacent to each other. And to be able to identify what's the best use if there's potential future partnership opportunities, not to limit to a property swap, but if there's an opportunity to be able to have a joint use agreement or expand the use on those sites, like what's the best use, so both the agencies are able to leverage that property.
Thanks. My questions are on slide 13 and 14. I'm interested in the feasibility studies on the phase 1 projects. And so you're looking at affordable housing, workforce housing, and a transitional age youth hub at those sites. I heard you reference efforts to go. I heard you talk about workforce housing a lot, and you referenced efforts to go to the state to get workforce housing. You talked about, seeing what the demand and interest was for workforce housing. tell me how you're also replicating those same efforts for the Transitional Age Youth Hub.
Yes. So we've begun to research if there are any existing models that are already in place for transitional youth. We've been exploring not just with other school districts, but also other local agencies. So there's, I believe, Director Berry actually was able to help us gather some research from San Jose. There's one in Santa Clara, I believe, and San Francisco has one. And so to be able to look at how these models are functioning, what's the goal and intent of those models, bring some ideas back to the board, but also to be able to identify what's the programming that the district intends to put in, would like to consider as part of developing that model. So currently we're in the research phase trying to figure out and identify what's the different models out there and what's the best, I guess, which are some of the models that we can take away from.
Okay, so a few more.
Sure.
So the district is actively considering proposing that the district participate in the TAE Hub services?
I believe that was one of the proposals that was being considered in the past, is that there is a district programming element as part of that model.
You're saying that the district has decided they want to look at that?
Yes, I believe so.
So for the workforce housing, the affordable housing, you have a consultant or a couple of consultants, you've had them that have lots of expertise in those areas. What expertise have you hired that knows how to do TAE Hub programming, not just build housing, but do the programming, so that this proposal gets the exact same level of attention that the others do? How are you going to bring out expertise, not inside, not going around and look at, but what expertise are you going to depend on to understand how TAE Hub programming works?
Yeah. So the current partnership that we have is with two groups of consultants. One of the consulting team, Divine and Gong, has a lot more hands-on research and experience with affordable housing, and have been, I'm not necessarily sure if they're the experts on TAE housing, but they have worked previously on some models around TAE housing.
Housing. I'm asking about the services.
I'm sorry, yes, that's what yes. I don't know about the services, but TAE housing is what they've worked with.
So I'm asking about the services. You don't have an expert to consider the services in the same way?
Yeah,
that
from
you're
our
gonna consider?
research with, based on just other school districts, we haven't yet found any subject matter experts specifically around just those services.
Okay, you haven't. So you're open to some suggestions about
Yes.
that? Okay. Workforce housing. Have there been any conversations in the district at any level about using construction bond money, a local bond, to pay for workforce housing?
That has been part of the research that we presented. It has not been part of considering the current bond usage, but as part
I
of
don't
the
mean the current. I need for the. Are we talking about paying for? I'm sorry. Are we talking about paying for workforce housing out of voter-approved bond funds, locally approved bond funds?
Yeah, staff has not made any recommendations yet. What staff has presented is the different options school districts around us have used. One of them has been the bond.
So has there been any discussions internal among staff at all that this is about this direction to go?
With using the bond? Yes.
Paying
Yes.
for a
Potentially,
future bond.
yes.
Okay, so we have a huge, I'll just say this just so everybody knows, there's billions of dollars of unmet need in our schools. And this money is gonna have to be taken away from that money. So just want everybody to be sure, just to be clear, that's what we're talking about. But the voters are not an unlimited bank that you can just turn to fund anything. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Andrea?
Yeah, so I 100% agree with Andy Nelson. And I want to say that I believe that you do need to do some outreach for consultants that do have experience around services for a hub. I believe that Southern California, it's not San Diego, but it's a county down there does have a transitional housing. I found it at one time and think I sent it to someone. There's also one in Austin, Texas that has been quite successful, so they are out there. And I just feel frankly we're getting really focused on workforce housing when the previous board, clearly had a resolution for expressly moving forward with the TAY hub, whatever that looks like. And so what I heard, the other thing is I just want to point out is I feel like this contract should have come before us and we should have been alerted what it looked like and what the services were to be rendered through this, because our bylaws say that this contract should have been at least come before us prior to it going to the board so we could make a recommendation. I'm not saying that this shouldn't have happened. I'm just saying that we were alerted on the back end, and this has moved along somewhat, because I feel like we need to get to a place where we decide on 1025 Second Avenue, because there's other opportunities that, you know, now is the time. And I'll just be, I'm not for workforce housing at 1025 Second Avenue. And the other thing that I heard in the beginning, I think, is that there was community engagement. I thought I heard you say that. So when and where and who was the community that engaged in this?
It's in the background and context sections. We did have, there were 2 town halls, I believe, and I can bring the dates or the file references back. I know Member Davis had hosted one along with, yes, that was in 20. But it was, again, the conversation was to be able to start identifying what the community would consider that we talk about in terms of asset management strategies. We did have several study sessions as well where we talked about all of the strategies that are again, these were potential strategies that other school districts are considering. And again, part of those conversations, we did engage with the communities in those meetings too. But there were, there's a plan that we have been trying to move forward with to be able to also issue a survey for our staff to be able to talk about, or district staff to be able to talk about what their needs are around potential housing. I know in a lot of conversations with staff, we've heard a lot of feedback around the costs in the city and the affordability being at its peak. At the same time, we've also had conversations around, to your point, is maybe the strategy is not the best strategy. So to be able to gauge that feedback, we're still working on some of that.
Yeah, and I'll just say, emphatically, I am against running any bond for workforce housing. I believe workforce housing might be important, but the need for all of our schools is tremendous. And so what you want to do, in my opinion, is find a property that you put on a 99-year lease or a 75, whatever it is, and you let someone else come in and build workforce housing for you, and you want it to be revenue neutral. That's all your goal is affordable housing that's revenue neutral, and we not get in the business of managing or having anything to do with it other than maybe the lottery to who gets to go in it after it's built. So.
All right.
And then Sam, and then we probably need to move to another topic.
And I'm actually sorry that it's you present. I'm sorry that you're on the hot seat.
Yeah.
I was about to say
I
the
actually
same
feel like
thing.
Preston ought to be here. To be honest with you, but in the background here, I appreciate the work what's missing here is that there were 4 board resolutions or otherwise direction given to staff to move toward the transitional age youth hub at 1025, 4 of them since 2019. And in the voter, in Measure Y, in the voter approved project list in Measure Y, this use was contemplated for 1025 Second Avenue. So that's missing from the background in the history. And I don't find that to be like, well, I don't know why that is. I'll just leave it at that. But it's striking.
Yes, I'm very concerned because I used to be a GED instructor for many years, and the young people were very transient. They didn't have a place to be and to stay. And, you know, if you don't have that stable place to be, then nothing else is going to matter, right? I would think that the public, I would like to know how you advertised or published the meetings for the public to come to these town halls, and how many town halls. You said there were 2. 2 is definitely not enough, but just how do you advertise so that the public can know?
Yeah, typically we would, depending on how these town halls are hosted or by whom they are hosted, the communication channels would differ. But typically, information like this we would be posting on our website for any upcoming engagements around that are facilitated or led by the facilities team. But in terms of the study sessions that we've had, where we've presented all of these comprehensive reports or all of the strategies, and like you mentioned, is revenue neutral, which districts are considering those. There's about like 20 districts within the Bay Area or 20 projects that school districts are considering specifically. So just bringing all that research together, when we talked about that research, it was at the study session, which is again posted on Registrar.
So if it's on your website, how does the public get to know? Is that the only way they can know when the town halls are, is if they go to the website? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, we would also take opportunities like the committee meetings to be able to announce any upcoming events.
It has to be disseminated in a better way.
Sure.
Absolutely. Because those are the ones that it's impacting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to say, I mean, so my town hall was like me. I was like an unpaid school board member, you know, pulling it together, but, you know, in my spare time. But no, I just first want to agree with Andy. You're doing great. This is amazing. You know, you're handling all these, you know, questions, peppering you, and you're just cool under fire. So congratulations, Vanita. It's really great to see. I remember when you were new to Oakland, and I think I sent you an email, and Press was like, "Don't scare her off." So you're doing fantastic. But yeah, this is much more, I think, directed at kind of staff overall. You know, Preston, and just the push for workforce housing that I've seen coming from this department, when, you know, as what I learned from doing all that outreach and that town hall and meeting after meeting was that there is no appetite for workforce housing in Oakland. It's very popular in other districts in California for, you know, on vacant school properties for different reasons. Those cities are very different from Oakland. What Oaklanders want is affordable, deeply affordable housing. And there's a lot of political will for that too. And so it sounds like you have been reaching out. I hope you're talking to folks about the Measure W money. I saw the recent list of Measure W approved projects. There were 2 Black Cultural Zone projects that are like across the street from Shands. There was East 12th project around the corner from 1025. So there is, and there's a lot more Measure W money coming down the pike. I'm sure that, I'll send you, there was some announcement from the state of a project that sounds, it's not it's not a T-hub, but it is a hub of sorts for people with high need in Los Angeles, and it's on vacant property. And Governor Newsom was down there touting it, and that's the sort of project that gets funded in the state, and in cities like Oakland and LA. So I really urge you guys to look at that seriously. I think the question I had, the first question was, and you don't have to answer this now if you don't know, but I'm just trying to understand what's the total cost of the feasibility studies, because that seems like they're very extensive. 700,000. Okay. Yeah, but you can get back to me later about that. Are those coming out of bond money, or are those coming out of other funds?
Yes.
Oh, they're
Yes.
coming out of
So
Measure
the
Y.
feasibility study is from Measure Y. The previous assessment or evaluation that we did for phase 1 was from a different funding source.
Okay. Yeah, I do think that you would get a lot further just meeting with Rowena Brown's staff and just having a conversation than you will doing a whole feasibility study. But anyway,
Yes.
that's my take. The other question I had is, has there been conversations around asking the board to create a 7-Eleven committee? Because most of these properties that you listed have not been 7-Eleven. And I know you don't need a 7-Eleven for workforce housing, but like I said, I don't think that's politically viable in Oakland. And I think if you want to move these projects forward, you need to do 7-Eleven for all of these. And I think it would be a very educational experience. And rather than doing the whole feasibility study, and then, because I remember when 7-Eleven was done in Oakland a few years ago, it was over a year from beginning to end, because you have to create the committee, you have to get the board to agree you have to recruit the right people. No, the board doesn't like those people, get different people. Then you have to have all the meetings, and then they have to write a report, and then the board has to get the report. And so rather than doing the feasibility study and then starting the 7-Eleven, you got to do them in parallel. So I really hope you guys are thinking about doing that.
Asada Olugbala.
There's some items on the agenda tomorrow in committee, economic development, funding from the state for transitional housing for youth, housing for low income, very low income, homeless. And there's also another item that's funds that's going to Alameda County, but Oakland will be included in that for housing. So there is a discussion tomorrow for the challenges related to affordable housing. And so the challenges are projects are expensive to build, often requiring complex layers of funding that take 3 to 5 years to secure. And that's being discussed. They're talking about inflation, the rising interest rate, high insurance issues, utility costs, operating regulations and zoning grants. They're discussing that tomorrow because we are way behind with affordability housing with a goal of a certain number by 2030 something. So my concern is that you have schools that are closing, charter schools, that are buildings that are our buildings. Bay Tech, Francophone is leaving the Barack Obama Middle Alternative School. Then we need to have a place for Bunche students. That needs to be addressed. And the biggest issue is we have 20 schools that have less than 300 students, and the enrollment is declining. The challenge is the state has says you can't close schools that are disproportionately African American, and most of these schools are African American majority schools. So we got a lot of challenges. And so with those challenges, I don't agree that we should be putting our fingers into the hot water of housing. It is extremely challenging to deal with housing, no matter what the housing is.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. We now turn to G2260629. This is review of our charge and our bylaws, and I would like to ask Andy Nelson if he could take us through this conversation.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into the history of why what I'm going to say is the case. But catch me outside. But the bylaws that govern this committee are different than the bylaws that cover all other committees in this district. Part of it is because they're covered by Prop 39, I think, by state law, but also because our board added some significant other recommendatory. Everything we do is recommendatory, but recommendatory powers to this committee. And I'm just going to go through what they are. I want to make sure that this is on the record, and especially from members who may not, and staff who may not have heard this. I'm not going to. You have the whole in yellow highlights, the text that in the documents for this meeting. But I'm just going to say real quick, so we are to be consulted on auditor selection, on financial advisor selection, and on the hiring of a deputy facilities chief. I don't know what happened to that title or that position, but in the event we ever hire a deputy facility chief, we're to be consulted on that hiring. Of course, by state law, we review the performance in the financial audits and provide an annual report to the district on the use of funds. We also inspect schools, which of course we did the other, we've been doing that, of course. We are to alert the board at the earliest opportunity of any potential misuse of bond funds. And then it gets into some of the other of our efforts that are a little different. So we have the opportunity to review and make recommendations on any changes to spending plans. These are all capital S, capital P spending plans, capital voter approved project list, the facilities master plan. So any changes to those, we are allowed to make recommendatory, take action on and make recommendations, which would be through a vote, right? It has to be agendized as a voting matter, which we very seldom get items agendized as voting matters, and I think we're trying to address that, Chair. I know we're working with David on that. But then we also get to make recommendations regarding any alterations to budgets, timelines, and any other changes that are subject to board approval. So any facilities bond expenditures that the board has to approve, we get to review in advance and make a recommendation on. And that's a lot. That's a lot. And so anyway, and I won't get into the details of how we have done that in the past. But we have some conditions under that, which are laid out in the bylaws, which we have to make those. If we choose to make those recommendations, we have to make them at or before the next board meeting, so we're not out of sync with what they're doing. And in order for us to do that, district staff has to give us the documentation for those changes at the exact same time that they give it to the board, if not before, so that we have a chance, even if it's between meetings, we can do it on an ad hoc basis as we did with the facilities master plan. We get to see those and decide whether or not we want to issue an opinion on whether or not those changes should happen. And then finally, we are to get at least quarterly a full reporting of all changes to bond expenditures that are covered by our purview. And so I wanted to say that just so that everybody knows the breadth of what we are actually, able to make recommendations and express opinions on. It's all about the bond. It's not about policy necessarily, but it's about bond expenditures, and it's all recommendatory. But I wanted folks to be aware that that's what we do as a committee.
Yeah, I wanted to speak a little bit to the political backstory of that, because I think it's important for staff to hear that who may not have been here. And so this change to the board bylaw was passed in 2019, so it was just before I got on the board. Might have been 2020 even. And it really came out of the vast overspending on Central Kitchen and Glenview, which ended up sucking a lot of dollars away from other major projects. And so you saw a project like Fremont get vastly delayed, a project like Roosevelt got kicked off completely, McClymonds got kicked off completely and put onto Measure Y because there was no Measure J funds left for those two, and that was because Central Kitchen and Glenview sucked up all the funding. And so I think as we get into real construction happening on these projects, that's where the meat of this bylaw about us kind of tracking things going over budget is really important, because any project has the potential to go off course and start sucking away dollars from everything else. And we were very lucky, and in fact, actually, the board chose not to put a bond on the ballot in 2018 because the district was in crisis, and some of the board members were pretty worried that it wouldn't pass because of what had just happened in the bond program. And so they waited until 2020. And so as we start thinking about well, there's a reason we're not doing a bond this year, I'll tell you that much. And as we look towards 2028 and wanting to be able to do a bond that year, we really need all of these projects to be on track and be successful for the voters to see, a well-managed bond program. The regular, the unrestricted budget may be completely mismanaged. That's not y'all's fault. But the bond program, at least we can try to keep on track and hope to have some success with these projects. And we've seen some success, and it does seem like the management is a lot better this time than it was, 10 years ago. But anything can go off course, especially once construction starts. So that's why we're asking for that. And I think there's been a misinterpretation of that piece around the major change orders to say that only needs to come back to this committee if it means that the project is going to go over budget for the entire budget. But the language in there is about large change orders. It's not about changing the spending plan. So it's even if it's within budget, but it's starting to go off track, large change orders will kind of give you that alarm bell. So I think we need to have a good process in place as that happens.
Andrea?
And so the confusion and complication to all this has been the timeliness of how things go to the board. And I know that's very difficult because oftentimes the work has already started. You couldn't stop to approve a change order. But I think that there needs to be a real earnest effort to report the whole project here, like with the contingency factor, because the way that the district is structured, you have a built-in contingency. So there's been an attitude, I'll just say, in the past that you didn't need to come to us and tell us that you were going to do the $18 million project at Fremont because it still fell within the overall original budget for Fremont. So the district decided on their own to go ahead with that project versus come back and say, what do you all think? I mean, and we might have asked, well, what are the other needs in the district? So, because we don't have enough money. We have $3 billion worth of need, and we have $750 million worth of money is what, when we pass the 2020 bond. So it's not a perfect, it's really kind of a difficult weave to bring it to us before. But I think really we want to know. That's the real thing. We want to know and understand why you're adding a building or you're making this change, so we can feel like there was, that facilities didn't take on the onerous of making those decisions themselves. It's a larger, and it's really transparent to this committee and to the board.
I have to say, this evening is really an education for me. And hearing how things have because this is, like you said, this is what this committee is for. So omission looks like deception if we aren't brought into the conversation. And I think that's what's being said here. We have to be included, right? So thank you to all of you, and I hope that you're hearing and feeling what we're saying. We have to be included.
Thank you. All right.
I should say the context for having this on the agenda tonight was actually in the context of our OUSD board liaison asked for some discussion about our purview. I'm sorry that she's not here tonight. I hope that she will look at the recording and read the document so that she can understand what our purview is, and then we can have a conversation about it. And yes, things have been getting a lot better. So.
Well, thank you for everybody. Do we have any comment?
Asada Olakbala.
All right. It's 8:32. A couple of minutes.
Ran out of time.
Look like y'all have the same problem I have. Welcome to the club, not being included. But it really concerns me, this one thing. On the agenda of the board meetings where they're approving measures related to B, J, and Y. And I'm asking which ones go to you, because none of them that I see come before you. And which one of them, and I was told it's not necessary for everything related to measure B, J, and Y come to you. So, but,
That's it? All right. All right. We move on? Okay. For our last item for this evening, G3 260634. This is a facility site visit at McClymonds on Friday. Do I have comments, concerns, observations from any of those in attendance? We actually had a pretty well-attended site visit, as I recall.
Okay, I have to say that I am eagerly waiting for construction to begin. I mean, I like the way everything is going. Okay, this is over there, this is going to be there, okay, I understand. I am just praying that the work starts when they say the work will start. I know we're waiting on this approval. I get it. But after that the work start immediately. No fires, no any of that. Just let the work begin.
Yeah, I'll just say I was disappointed, after being away for 14 months to be like, wait, it hasn't started yet, but I understand it's on DSA and you guys are waiting, and as soon as you get the approval, you'll start. But I would say, I think one thing I did come away with, it's being built for 650 students. It currently has, I think, just south of 300. It's up above 300 now. Okay, well, that's good news. So I do think, the hard conversation needs to happen around, is there one of the alt-ed programs do you use a separate entrance? Do you have one of the alt-ed programs? Do you expand it to 612? How do you make it a sustainable size going forward? I think there is going to be some influx of students just based on it being safer, looking better, in 2028. But there has to be some conversation around what other programs could also be co-located there. It would be good for everybody concerned because there'd be more resources the more students you have. So I just think it's got to be talked about.
I guess having observed the team on place, I think I am very sorry for the delays, but I think one good thing is it will have a good team to get it off the ground. And I think most of us felt really good about meeting the team that's going to move it because it looks experienced. And, yeah, there have been a lot of issues there in which people feel faith has been broken with the community there. But I also agree with Sam that it is also a hard sell to suggest I'm glad the numbers are up, but that, 300 students for over $90 million of investment, right? It's a hard sell unless there's going to be programmatic conversation about what else is going to be happening there. There's only one, the engineering is the only track that's there. That's good. But kind of like what else? Where's the meat, okay? Where's the beef? And so there's some expectation around that. That's certainly outside our purview because we're looking at the building. But it's certainly interrelated, isn't it? And I think the facilities team is well aware of that. So with that, I think, yes, you have comments? I want to, thank everybody for showing up because I think that might have been the best attended site visit we've had. I think we had 100% attendance, and that was really great. And everybody was very responsive to all our questions. Do we have any comments on this one?
Asada Olagbalo.
All right, I'll give you a minute.
And they telling us the project started 2 weeks ago. You go and they say it hasn't started yet. So I asked Ms. Harris to be at the school Friday. She said she didn't see anybody. So y'all were there, huh? And all you were told was what they're gonna do. They told me 2 weeks ago the project had started a week before that. That's what I'm talking about. I told her they lie. They lie. Now, excuse me? Well, if you're in charge of the project, you lying. So listen, the field is a separate project. It's not a part of the modernization project. $3 million. Our school plus other schools, all other schools got it. Nothing's happened for our field to be remediated. And my time's up and I'll be back.
Excuse me. Sure. Happy to. I am pleased to report that we are making progress on preparing to start the construction phase of the project. We're doing everything that we can do prior to DSA stamp, which includes a great deal of site investigation work. So we have been marking and providing access to potential subcontractors to the building so that they can prepare really accurate and excellent bids for us. Bids, I think, are due this week for subcontractors, and then we'll be bringing a guaranteed maximum price proposal from the contractor for approval following that. So there has been a great deal of work on in the phase 1 section of campus. It's visible. You can see holes, as you saw, holes in the floor to be able to have access to that part of the structural work that will be happening as part of phase 1. And we're excited for the work to continue. We had the work has not started. The investigation work has started, but there's not been any actual construction yet. but we're looking forward to that. There has been, yes, thank you. Initially, the modernization project and the field project were separate, and they actually went to DSA as two separate projects, and so they will stay, in that technical sense, two separate projects, but we are treating them, once the construction begins, we'll be phasing them all together. So we will be working to ensure that the full scope of the modernization project and the full scope of the field project will happen within the timeline of the modernization. So happy to answer any further questions.
Not yet. We have public comment on non-agenda items.
So as it related to McClymonds, Facilities Department filed for a notice of exemption in November of 2025. They applied for a notice of exemption January 23rd of 2026 for McClymonds, again, along with Westlake Middle School and so forth, and other schools, including Oakland School of the Arts. I don't know what this notice of exemption is. This project started in 2021. They produced a schedule for the summer in 2025. McClymonds, modernization to begin, football field to be dealt with, kitchen to be dealt with. 3 things. They did the kitchen. Nothing happened with the football field. Nothing happened with the beginning of the project. Move all the children to half of the building. Spent $72,000 to store furniture, and now they're saying they're working on starting the project. I'll be back saying the same thing. I can't wait to go to the meeting to find out why they told me they started the project 3 weeks ago.
Number 1 is the audit. Okay, so we need to know the status of the annual audit, and it needs performance, financial. And secondly, I'd like to hear from bond counsel, what the status of the bond is, and what, there's this current sale, of the bond, and so, like, I think there might be some more questions around that.
What is that? Just the fact sheets that Andy referred to earlier, that periodically, the one I was showing the other parents this morning, so we can get an update on all of the major projects.
I don't think you need a resolution for that. I think that's
We're adjourned.